Chapter 35, Uncoordinated Video Outside of Shelby, Mississippi. The uncoordinated video team lost a full day because of a transportation glitch. Agent in charge Horton spent all night pacing the parking lot with his legal pad and cell, trying to find a suitable work site with nearby lodging. The Memphis attack now looked like bureaucratic overkill. The director of U.S. Homeland Security, Robert Clark, had ordered an evacuation of Memphis. This took the locals off guard and they resisted the order. After all, the bleach ammonia salt resulted in 0 fatalities. Most of the hospitalized were treated within 2 miles of the epicenter, and Blog Wisdom stated that most of the victims were trying to scam for workman's comp or unemployment benefits or disability. These were amateur terrorists, Memphis Police Chief Jelani Tate summarized. The attack occurred on Wednesday afternoon. The order to evacuate had been given sometime Wednesday evening, but few people in Memphis got the memo. Crime and Justice was running its season finale, and American Diva featured a local contestant. The 2 affiliates refused to cut away from the scheduled programming, and a lot of Memphis residents went to bed without hearing about any evacuation order. On Thursday morning, a press conference with a loaded dais stuffed with representatives of the Memphis Police Department, the Shelby County Sheriff's Department, the Tennessee State Police, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and a dozen or so other state and local police agencies, as well as representatives of area fire departments, airport administration, civil defense, and educational officials who would provide school buses in the event of an evacuation, offered their support to their spokesman, Mayor Wasabi Washington. And Mayor Washington politely stated how much he respected the good people at Homeland Security and stated how much he respected Director Clark. But then he reiterated that yesterday's attack was the work of amateurs, and he proceeded to contrast the attack with the Texas attack 2 months prior. With tender diplomatic phrasing, the mayor announced that the citizens of Memphis would not participate in an evacuation of their beloved city. With ruffled bureaucratic feathers, Director Clark ordered the closing of all Memphis hotels an hour later. He also restricted Memphis International Airport to departures only. This order was rescinded a half hour later by President Walker, but the president did not rescind the hotel closings. On Thursday evening, the uncoordinated video team landed in Memphis, and shortly after midnight, they were settled in the Sleepy Hollow Motor Lodge just outside of Shelby, Mississippi, 92 miles from Memphis. In the course of his all-night phone activity, Agent in charge Horton would learn that the Memphis FBI field office, which had been placed on emergency shutdown since the attack on Wednesday, had been cleared to reopen Friday morning. He would also learn that the field office could provide workspace for the uncoordinated video team. Agent in charge Horton was thrilled. The uncoordinated video team would sleep under desk if they had to. He would be even more elated when he learned that the order closing the Memphis hotels had been lifted. They would probably be answering their phones and booking rooms by sunrise. The team might actually sleep in warm, soft beds. Things were looking up. With a worksite secured and lodging options improved, Agent in charge Horton placed one last call to a sleepy transportation coordinator. Yes, a bus would meet the uncoordinated video team at the Sleepy Hollow Motor Lodge, probably between 8 and 9 o'clock. A relieved Agent in charge Horton sat on the sidewalk outside room 16, where inside 7 of his men snored and moaned and tried to sleep. Agent in charge Horton was philosophically opposed to prescription sleep inhibitors, even the non-addictive variety like modafinil and its offshoots. He also declined and forbade prescription sleep inhibitors on behalf of his entire team. He dozed for a few minutes on the cold sidewalk and then bounced to his feet. The sun was rising, and he ordered his crew out of bed and onto their feet. A bus was on its way. There was a job to do. Despite the motor lodge manager's stern warnings, Agent in Charge Horton entered Judy Hunsicker's room. He asked her to shower and get dressed, and when she had done so and had exited his room, he removed his shoes and fell face first into her warm bed. The agents would learn that the complimentary continental breakfast consisted of a stale bagel and half of an overripe banana. Cream, cheese, and butter were extra. Coffee was not included, and the officious matron charged them for each 6-ounce cup. Sugar and cream were extra. The matron also demanded cash payment for additional body wash and toilet paper. She allowed the guests to view the lobby TV for free, and several of them sat on the stained, unpadded carpet and stared absently at the Bollywood musical in hopes that the third cup of pale coffee would wake them up. Judy Hunnsicker sat behind a long torso, bouffantish, hair-wearing motor lodge guest who fidgeted and blocked her view of the television. She decided to check her voice and text messages instead of trying to watch the entertainment. Looking around, she noticed that the 8 other Mormon agents were also drinking wake-up elixir. At 9 p.m., the squat, rotund matron announced that the lobby was closed, and she proceeded to herd the patrons into the parking lot. It was a sunny, late May Mississippi morning, and the uncoordinated video team members ambled about and mingled with other motel lodge guests. The agents took turn using the 2 washrooms where Agent in Charge Horton was not sleeping. As the morning progressed, some of the team members inquired about the bus's estimated time of arrival. Someone suggested that they should awaken Agent in Charge Horton, but this idea was not immediately put into action. Instead, the uncoordinated video team waited patiently for a bus that would not arrive that day. The team would later learn that Mississippi was home to not 1 but 2 Sleepy Hollow motor lodges, and the other establishment rested 318 miles away in the city of Gulfport. It would be there that their bus would arrive. At 10 a.m., Agent Harding took it upon himself to waken Agent in Charge Horton. He knocked on his door. He banged on his door. He pounded on his door. He banged on the window. He tried calling his cell, but Harding was routed directly to voicemail. He had decided to pop the lock, but his efforts were interrupted by the surly proprietor who had been alerted by the percussive noises. The surly proprietor placed himself centimeters away from Hardy's girth. Hardy was in his 30s, 6'2", 230 pounds, a trained martial artist and a well-armed FBI agent. The cranky owner was 20 years older, a foot shorter, and half as heavy. He was unarmed and wore thick glasses and homemade sandals, but he was the more menacing adversary. The way he so boldly violated Harding's personal space and breathed into his chest prompted all the agents to fondle their weapons. "Move!" Mr. Lakshman screamed in a louder than expected voice. Harding jumped out of the way. The flush-faced hotelier placed his master key inside the lock and turned the key. He would yell, "Get up!" to a snoozing Agent in Charge Horton, who would bound to his feet, clutching his weapon. The proprietor screamed about family lodging and made unflattering comments about Judy Hunsicker's virtue. He ordered all 17 occupants of rooms 14, 15, and 16 to vacate the premises immediately. Agent in Charge Horton drew his badge and reminded the proprietor who they were. The badge did not produce a calming effect. If anything, Mr. Lakshman grew more belligerent. His speech took on a more pronounced Hindi accent. He stormed out of room 15, threatening to call the sheriff. Agent in charge Horton seized the respite to contact the transportation coordinator. Yes, their bus had been routed to a tourist trap on the Gulf. Was there any way Agent in charge Horton and his team could meet the driver in Gulfport? Well, yes, the driver would probably be passing through Bolivar County on his return to Memphis, but he seems to have his cell phone off, so it might be hard to redirect him to your current location. Yes, there would be a bus available for the uncoordinated video team tomorrow, and it would arrive at 6 a.m. sharp. Probably. An agent in charge, Horton, felt a bit nervous about the use of the word probably, and he would scream into the cell even louder than the proprietor had screamed at him. As agent in charge, Horton haggled with the transportation coordinator. The team speculated as to the amicability of the arriving sheriff's deputy. The FBI had had several run-ins with unsavory elements in the rebel state, and they were unsure how warmly they would now be received. The agents would breathe a collective sigh of relief when two African-American deputies pulled into the parking lot in a gaudy blue and red cruiser. But the dark-skinned lawman would be anything but friendly. The burly passenger lumbered out of the cruiser wielding a shotgun. The NBA-sized driver stroked his .44 Magnum in his holster as he talked. Both deputies wore mirrored glasses. The deputies ignored the agent's efforts at humor and camaraderie and fellowship. The taller deputy coldly reminded them that Mr. Lakshman was an outstanding member of the community, and they did not take kindly to Yankee carpetbaggers coming down here to debase their peaceful community. A now calmer Mr. Lakshman re-emerged from his office and exchanged pleasantries with the deputies. Agent in charge Horton completed his self-calls, and he too joined the assemblage that consisted of his 16 subordinates, 2 Bolivar County Sheriff deputies, the now subdued Mr. Lakshman, and a dozen or so onlookers. Mr. Lakshman politely asked Agent in charge Horton to leave. Agent in charge Horton politely responded that his people were desperate for lodging and begged him to allow them to stay. Sensing a weakness, Mr. Lakshman pounced. There would be 10 rooms available at 2 p.m., and the team had to book all 10 of them at a rate that was closer to the Marriott's rates than the rate the FBI paid the previous evening. Agent in charge Horton swallowed hard and let out a meek, "Okay." Mr. Lakshman made one last stipulation. Judy had to go immediately. This triggered a bellicose roar from the momentarily calm Horton, and civility rushed out of the meeting like air from a punctured balloon. It was apparent that Lakshman was not using Judy as a bargaining chip. He sincerely accused her of prostitution, and now no amount of sway or cash would appease him. All eyes were on the heated debate waging in the parking lot. No one took notice of Judy Hunnsicker texting on her personal cell. She had been in contact with Bob Henderson almost every day since their dinner in Salt Lake City. The preparation involved with the pending investigation had put a crimp in the communication, but this morning Judy had sent Bob a message while she waited for the bus that would not arrive. Judy was gladdened to learn that Bob was currently inhabiting a hotel room in West Memphis, Arkansas. His older brother Gilbert had retired from the FBI and took a job in security for a national hotel chain. Gilbert was able to get Bob rooms at huge discounts, and he usually took advantage of this fraternal perk whenever he traveled. Judy was unsure what Bob Henderson was doing in the Memphis area, but she hoped that maybe, just maybe, he had arranged his schedule so that he could be closer to her. She had mentioned the lodging snafu, and Bob had texted back, "You can stay in my room." Of course, he had been joking. When Judy explained the situation where Mr. Lakshman wanted her expelled, she concluded by asking Bob if he had been sincere in offering to share his room. Bob Henderson texted a reply. Sincere? Yes. Judy was able to get Agent in Charge Horton's attention, and she walked away from what had become an impasse. Listen, I can stay with a friend in West Memphis. If I can get a rental car, we're all set. Agent in Charge Horton resisted. He wanted to sue Mr. Lakshman for gender discrimination, and he detested the idea of anyone pushing the FBI around, especially a green card blunderbuss and a couple of 10-star deputies. But Judy was persuasive. We already lost a full day's work, she reminded him. Agent in Charge Horton cogitated and then made his counteroffer. If you can get Agent Hunnsicker a rental car... The deputies chimed in that there weren't any pick-you-up rentals in Bolivar County, but if Agent in Charge Horton could give them some gas money, they would make sure Agent Hunnsicker was transported to a reputable car rental. Agent in Charge Horton made Judy promise two things. One, she would be in constant cell contact with him until she was dropped off at the car rental. Two, she would have one hand on her weapon at all times. Judy agreed to the terms, and Agent in Charge Horton provided the agents with gas money. Judy could not believe her sudden change in luck. Finally, she would be spending the night with the man she dreamed about. She smiled broadly and stared out at the window of the police cruiser. Finally.